All right, let's solve the insurance issue. If you made a solution, then you can check out my solution. It's probably going to be quite different to yours. There's no one way to do this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement the insurance quite similar to the postage, but I'm going to start further down the hierarchy. So I'm going to do it on the bottom. Why? The insurance is only applied to envelope mail or box mail. So insurance here, 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 and here. No insurance here. No insurance here. So the parents don't have insurance, but the kids do, because it's 100% necessary to differentiate between an envelope and a box. See, in this case, if I create a regular mail, I don't know if it's an envelope or a box. Now, there are many ways to do this, okay? So I'm going to do this the way I did it with the postage. So all I'm going to do is say the regular mail and the priority mail don't calculate insurance. So let me go ahead and do that. Regular mail. I'm going to get rid of the insurance calculation. And guess what happens? We get an error. Let me do it again. I want to make sure I see the error twice. So let me get rid of the insurance. Error again. Okay. So at this point, you're looking at this and you go, wait a minute. You just violated the rule, because you said if you are a male, you must calculate insurance. And I totally agree. This is a violation of the rule. So these two kids are being quite naughty. You're saying you need to go clean up your room, calculate your insurance. And you need to calculate your insurance. But none of you are doing it. So we are in violation. All right. I'm going to handle that in quite a second. Okay, give me a second. Let me go to the regular envelope. I just realized that envelope is spelled wrong. Been going through this all this time. I didn't realize that. So I'm putting an N there. There's not a big deal. I'm just going to change. Okay. Because it's the regular envelope now is spelled right, the class name is incorrect. So I'm going to put my mouse and I'm going to click on rename the file so that everything is all good. All right. Now, the errors persist. So we have the priority mail and we have the regular mail. Both can't do insurance, because if I try to calculate insurance here, I still need to figure out, is this a box or is it an envelope? So it's better to do it down here. That makes sense. So how do I handle the fact that everybody needs to do it? Well, here's what we do. We make this abstract. Okay, so I'm driving this point home because I know it's not part of the AP exam, but it's a good thing to know. What's the purpose of this word abstract? Here it is again. I'm not instantiating this. I'm not instantiating this. So I'm not going to go regular mail equals new regular mail. I'm not going to go priority mail equals new priority mail. I'm not going to do that, because the insurance is going to be handled on the lower level, right down here. So because I know what type these are, I could then calculate the insurance. Now, the question then is, how come this is not in violation? It says all kids supposed to calculate postage. It did, it's postage, but it didn't do insurance. Well, if you're a kid and you are a kid of an abstract class and you yourself is also abstract, you don't have to do anything. Let me actually let that point there swing home. You might be thinking to yourself, right? Well, how come you do the postage but not the insurance? I'm telling you right now that because it's abstract, it doesn't have to do anything. Why doesn't it have to do anything? Because I'm not going to instantiate it. I'm not going to create a priority mail. And the same is true over here for the regular mail. I'm not going to create them. So I could literally get rid of the postage. I can. I won't, but I can. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to say it's okay to do your postage. Okay? It's okay, because there was a formula for the postage and it right in line with the API. But it's not okay to do the insurance, meaning leave it empty, don't even bother. because the kids beneath are going to take care of it. So I'm talking about all the guys down here. So let's see. If you're an envelope, you got to be doing insurance. So let's go over to the regular envelope. So how am I going to actually do the insurance? It's not going to be 0. And if you wonder where is the postage for this one, you got to remember that postage was the same as its parent, so we didn't do it. Here is the insurance. The insurance says if you're an envelope, you're going to return your weight times the postage times the 15 cents. Okay, so let's do that. Get weight, postage, $0.15. Okay, so it's an envelope. So that's the formula for it. Okay. If it were a box, what's the difference? Change to 0.25. Okay, I could also make a constant for this and put it up here. So let's do that. Private final double let's call this postage. No, let's call this insurance underscore insurance rate. And I'm going to call it 0.15. I'm doing this just so it could make things nice and easy. Since I don't like to write, it's not good to write code by hard coding numbers. It's better to have an actual variable for it. Now you realize that this variable here is constant, so it's not going to change. But if this were a real app, let's say we were using it, we could actually have like a method to read from database here maybe. So when the app loads up, it reads it and then it gets set. So if a manager wants to change it, they could change it in the database. The app reads it, this gets updated. When the app's running in RAM, this value here will be the updated value. That's the best way to do it. So right now, the calculated insurance is some insurance rate, and that insurance rate gets applied based on whether you're a box or you are a envelope. So I'm gonna just go across and do it. Obviously, this is now a box, so it's not 0.15, it's 0.25. Let's go ahead and check that. Yep, 0.25. Same formula, I just kept this quite simple. So the insurance value is going to be the same, meaning the rate is the only difference. So I'm going to go ahead and go across, not priority mail, but this one. And this one. So let me go ahead now and get all the information over. So I did this one. Realize how easy this is going to be now, because everybody, as long as you are a box or a envelope, you're the same. I know it looks like I'm just copying and pasting the same thing, but you got to remember the rate changes based on whether you're a box or you are a envelope. So here should be 0.25, that's a box. Here 0.15, it's an envelope. Here 0.25, it's a box. Here 0.15, it's an envelope. Obviously I'm putting this here with the intention of reading it from a database. So if this value changes, let's say for example rates went up, then the manager can just change it and voila, we are done. So right now I took care of my insurance. Now you could say, well, you didn't quite override it. Well, yes, we did, because once this thing says we need to do it, once you implemented it, we consider it an override. Now here's the thing. This does not have any insurance because we don't know if it's a box or if it's an envelope. And so is this guy. There is no indication whether you're a box or, so I can't apply insurance to this. All right, so the API is almost finished. I took care of everything up to this point, right? But now I have to do this. Watch this. It says priority envelope and priority box has extra insurance. See this? Now, obviously, this does not pertain to the regular guys. So the regular part of the API is done. over here has an extra piece of insurance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the priority and create the extra piece of insurance. It's a flat fee. See that? It's a flat fee envelope on the box. So it says this is kind of open and vague, because intentionally vague, because it asks you to add this. So this is like an API update. If we're going to update the API and we're going to give it the ability to add some extra insurance for faster delivery, I'm going to do it the same way I was doing this stuff before. I'm going to ask the user if they want insurance, and then that's how I'm going to actually add insurance. So this method is not actually created anywhere, so I'm going to make a new method. So the method is going to be the total cost for the mail. It's going to be the postage plus the insurance. So we got to be mindful of that. So the postage plus the insurance is going to be calculated at the very bottom level, right down here. So I'm going to add a method for the cost, and that cost is going to be postage plus insurance. So I'm going to do that piece first, okay, to make sure that we could get some kind of flat fee for extra insurance. And how do I do that? Well, I'm just going to go to the priority portion, envelope. I'm going to do it the same way, okay. I'm going to call it extra insurance. I'm going to make it $5. I don't know what the rate is. It didn't say. So I'm just going to do that for both the envelope and the priority box. Or maybe we could make the envelope a little bit cheaper. Let's say $2. This is not actually implementing it. This is just creating the flat fee. We want to add it on to the insurance, okay? So here's what we're going to do. We are going to calculate insurance two ways. This is called overloading. This is called overloading. So what I'm going to do, this is the insurance without the extra insurance. And then I'm going to do another insurance that has the extra insurance. Now, I'm only going to do it on the bottom two. Okay, so the priority envelope and the priority box. That's the only place that has that, according to the API spec. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to say public double calculate insurance. And this time I'm going to make a Boolean has extra insurance. So I'm creating this method. I'm going to put it in the envelope as well. Why am I doing this? Well, this is called method overloading. I have to bring this in, even though it's not necessarily part of the list of information that we were supposed to study. The reason I'm doing this is because we have two ways to do the insurance. This is called an overloaded method. You know what method is overloaded? Print. When you do system.out.print, you could print an int, you could print a string, you could print a double, you could print all types. That's because it's overloaded. Anything going to an object, anything, you could print it. In this case right now, the extra insurance is going to be used whenever we have extra insurance. We're going to add on the extra insurance, okay? So I'm going to return this dot calculate insurance plus the extra insurance. And I can't spell. Now, that would only be true if this is true. So if it has extra insurance, return this. Otherwise, return this. Okay, so I gotta make sure we get something clear here. If you want to call a method that doesn't have insurance, you call this one. But if you want to call the method that actually might have insurance, you call this one. This gives us some flexibility. That's the overloading of the method. Now, don't get this confused with overriding. Overriding the same signature. Remember, postage was perfectly overridden. See that? Same signature everywhere. But in an overloaded method, the signature is different. Now, let me talk about the difference. We can't have a difference in just the return type. The difference has to be in the number of parameters, the type of parameter, or the order of the parameters. Let me say that again. The number of parameters, the type of parameters, and the order of parameters. Any of those three you can use to overload a method. So for example, if this did not have an input here, this should be exactly like this. But if I change this back and I say, let's return a double, it's still not overridden. I shouldn't say overridden. Still not overloaded. Wrong word. Still not be overloaded because overloading has nothing to do with the return type. Even if I say int, it's not the signature is not overloaded properly. So if you put back the double here and I put this here, it's overloaded because this has no parameters. This has one number. Let's say this had a Boolean as well. This is an AP exam question. Is true, for example. This is not overloaded. You can't change the name of the dummy variable and just say it's overloaded. No, it has to be a different type. So the name of the variable is unimportant. The return type is unimportant. What's important is the type. Like if this was string, then it's overloaded. Because it's not, what's important here is that it's calculated insurance, string. But this is calculated insurance, Boolean. Now, if I had a string here, and I had, let's say, a string here, this is perfectly overloaded. This is overloaded both in number and in type. Because this has 2, this has 1, perfectly overloaded. String Boolean, just string, perfectly overloaded. So you want to make sure when you overload a method, you are looking at the type of variable and the number of variables. Okay? The order as well. So I could have a Boolean string and a string Boolean, perfectly overloaded. Because the order, even though we have a Boolean and a string, if the order is different in the first one and the second one, it's overloaded. Okay, this is a little rundown on overloading a method. So when you look at the method, look at the signature. If the type and the name match exactly, not overloaded properly. Okay, so this is properly overloaded. And this is the method that we're going to be using for all envelopes and boxes. Okay, so priority box. Let's do that. Okay. Pull this back a little. Okay. So now you may say to yourself, wait a minute. This looks the same like the one before. Yes, but you got to remember the insurance rate's different. I know it's right. It's a little different. That's the difference right there. I'm pointing this out because you should never rewrite code. Every time you make an API, you should write your code once. But this is fine because this is different. Like I said, we could do this many ways. So there's probably, many ways to implement this. I'm just doing this the most straightforward way by using my abstract classes, and I'm coming down my API and looking to see which one should I instantiate and which one should I not. So I'm thinking of it this way. These are the guys I'm actually going to instantiate. These are the references I'm actually going to make. I'm not going to make a mail. I'm not going to make a regular mail because it's kind of pointless. I don't have enough information. Down here I do. I know it's a regular envelope mail, so that gives me a lot more flexibility in terms of what's the insurance, what's the postage, and so on. Very specific. Okay, concrete classes tend to be very specific, abstract, very vague. So we are currently at overriding methods. I'm going to add one more thing and wrap this up. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to get the entire postage. Okay. So the postage is the actually the amount to send the mail, and then the insurance is the amount in case something goes wrong. So I am going to then do a calculation of the cost, the overall cost. So I'm going to call that, let's say, calculate total. So where in the API should that go? Now I could do it in each one of these, or I can do it at the very top. See, this is where the abstract classes and the forcing of the behavior makes a lot of sense. So let's say I put it here: public double calculate total. Okay. Let's say I put it here. Let's go ahead and do this. So I can return this dot calculate postage plus this dot calculate insurance. Now, you may wonder, like, how is it possible to do that? Because I know all of my kids are going to do this. Because I know all of my kids are going to do this, I can do this because I'm not going to instantiate one of these. So it doesn't have a postage and an insurance. I'm not going to instantiate one of these. I'm only going to instantiate the guys at the bottom. So every one of them is going to have these two things because we forced it. But what about the extra insurance? Can I do that? So can I say calculate extra insurance? Can't. And if I said true, let me go. I shouldn't say calculate extra, calculate insurance, because I don't think I put the word extra in there. So I want to make sure we point that out. So calculate insurance, I overloaded it. So this has extra insurance. I'm saying it's true. And although I don't know that for a fact, I'm just showing you can't call this. Why? Because this is specific to the priority envelope and the priority box. No one else has this. There is nowhere else this shows up in the API. It's literally on the priority side, and it's at the bottom. It's not even here. It's down here. Okay? That's a very important thing. So the question now becomes, how would I actually do this? Well, this is how you work. This total that we have here, if we wanted to put it here at the top, is going to be calculating the insurance without the extra. So this is going to be doing it as if there is no more insurance, okay? Just the regular insurance that you have. So I'm speaking specifically of the guys on the bottom here, okay? Because remember, we can't instantiate the guys at the top. Mail, regular mail, and priority mail. We're not going to make an instance of those. So these 4 guys are going to have insurance. No, because they're concrete classes. I can do this. Everybody now inherits this. So that means all 4 of these are going to calculate the total the same way. But the priority mail may have extra insurance. See? The priority mail might have extra insurance. So let's go over here. So once I calculate the total, I'm going to use that. But what if I wanted to use that for the extra insurance? Well, there are a couple of ways we could do this. The first thing we can do is leave this as it is, okay? And the person who wants to calculate extra insurance must ask before. And you say, hey, do you need extra insurance? The person says yes. You call this one to get the insurance. Or we can take this and make it part of that. Now, to do that, we have to reorganize how we're going to be doing this. Now, obviously, the total is going to be this for everybody. So if I wanted the total to be calculated using the insurance and the priority, I can do it at the very top. I can say if oops. Listen, I'm getting a little more technical than what the AP exam is asking us for. I can say if it's a priority box, if it is, I can then create a priority box. Cast it. By the way, I have to cast it to the priority box. Then I'm going to return watch this, be careful here now. I'm going to return box has extra insurance. See, this is the case where we can make the total calculation ask you if you have extra insurance. See, I'm getting all nice and technical here. So I'm looking down my hierarchy and I'm saying, hey, is this a priority box? Because if it is, I wonder if there's extra insurance to be on it. Because this is what I want to do. Else if, and I hope you could see the next one. If this mail is an instance of a priority envelope, if that's true, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to copy and pasting this, and I'm going to change this to envelope. There are many ways to do this, okay? The reason why I wanted to do it here, it's because these guys going to inherit it. So when I call the calculate total, or all I got to do is say whether they have extra insurance or not. Obviously, the guys on the left don't have insurance, extra insurance, these guys. So if it's not one of these, it's going to do it without insurance, the extra insurance. So that's one way to handle it. I mean, there are many ways to do this, like I said. So you could do this a quite different way. But I'm just saying I want to go all the way to the top because the top guy can handle it by just figuring out if there's any extra insurance. And if there is, then it has to be one of these guys getting the extra insurance. Otherwise, it's one of the regular ones. Now, that means I don't have to write this. I don't have to override the method. I don't have to override this calculate total. I just let the guy at the top do it, and everybody inherits it. Now, here's the deal. Because that is true, because it's true that this calculate total is at the top, everybody inherits it. Now all of these can calculate the total for the male because it's in male. Okay, so that takes care of the insurance. It takes care of my postage. We take care of the total. We override. We added some extra stuff in here, things that are not on the AP exam. Remember how I put in the little abstract so that the postage is fine, but the insurance was done a different way. And this takes care of all the things that are needed for Unit 9.3, overriding methods with a little extra. So let's call it overriding methods plus. That's it.